Hello, I'm Verity Pitts, the Project Manager for the Dynamic Dunescapes project. I would like to introduce you to the project today and tell you a little bit about its background and some of our work. The project is a large project. It's around £10 million funding, primarily through the National Lottery Heritage Fund and the DuneLIFE programme, but also from the project partners. Dynamic Dunescapes is an ambitious project, rejuvenating some of England and Wales's most important sand dunes for people, communities and wildlife. It is a biodiversity project aiming to improve and enhance biodiversity in dune systems. Sand dunes were highlighted as one of the habitats least likely to meet Biodiversity 2020 targets, and at a similar time are flagged as being of major concern at EU level through the EU-funded IPENS project in England and the Natura 2000 projects. These studies assess the state of all of our internationally designated habitats and the management interventions required to improve their condition. As a consequence of these projects, a wide-ranging partnership has come together to develop a programme aimed at making a lasting difference to this threatened habitat across England and Wales. Conventional dune management over many decades has created stable dunes that have become overgrown with vegetation. This has led to a reduction of sand dune habitats in a good condition and an associated reduction in species diversity within the system. Healthy sand dune systems have examples of the different stages of succession, and the early dynamic stages are the ones that are becoming increasingly rare as the dunes are becoming over-stabilised. Healthy sand dunes need to be free to move and be dynamic. The Dynamic Dunescapes project aims to address this by removing invasive species, implementing grazing and increasing the amount of bare sand within the system. This project is led by Natural England, working closely with PlantLife, the National Trust, Natural Resources Wales and 3 wildlife trusts, Lincolnshire, Cornwall and Cumbria. This map shows where the project is working. We have project sites around both England and Wales, but mostly on the west coast. We also have a site at Studland in Dorset on the south coast and sites in Lincolnshire on the east coast, where the dunes are more like those found in Norfolk. The project covers around 34 individual sand dune sites and 7,000 hectares of sand dune habitat. The sites I'm going to talk to you about today include Studland Dunes on the south coast and Oxwich Dunes in South Wales. The project has a core national team working across the project and local teams at each of the sites, where the works and engagement activities are led by one of the partners, working closely with local project partners and stakeholders. The project delivers conservation actions and public engagement hand in hand. Habitat restoration techniques include scrub clearance, removal of invasive species and turf stripping. Our people engagement programme aims to build an understanding and appreciation of sand dunes as a naturally dynamic habitat requiring conservation interventions. Another of our objectives is to ensure more people and a wider range of people are involved with sand dunes, and through their involvement learn about, enjoy and value sand dunes. The project's inclusion programme has a focus on older people living with dementia and their carers, and also youth involvement. We're also working with dog walkers, as many sand dune settings experience the challenges associated with regular dog walkers, such as disturbance to wildlife and increased fertility due to dog fouling. The project has a large volunteering programme with activities such as invasive species removal, litter picking, fence building and species recording. We also want to offer up different opportunities for those that are time poor but want to do something to help. We have opportunities that might only take an hour, perhaps at a more convenient time of the day or a different day of the week. We're also looking to offer visiteering, which is a phrase coming through from the National Trust, where people are able to do a small activity while they're on a day trip or a holiday. We have a citizen science programme to support our site managers with a collection of data that will assess the impact of the project's conservation works. Today I'd like to talk to you about 2 case studies from the project. The first involves our Arty Cow Project in Studland Dunes in Dorset. This community art project aimed to engage the public with a reintroduction of cattle grazing at Studland Bay. Conservation grazing is an important tool for dynamic dune system management. At Studland Bay, which is managed by the National Trust, the dune system had become overgrown and the team wanted to reintroduce cattle for the first time in over 80 years. However, reintroducing cattle poses several risks. There is a potential conflict between large herbivores, dune users and dogs. The public may receive the information negatively, and there may also be a litter threat to the cows. Studland is a very popular holiday destination, with around 1.5 million visitors per year and an average of 25,000 per day in the high season. Engaging the community with the arrival of the cows and their purpose in dune conservation was needed, as the cows were visible in some parts of the site. 10 Red Devon cattle were due to be introduced wearing GPS-tracked collars, which respond to digitally drawn virtual fences. Their task was to graze, breaking up scrub and creating bare sand, and the new GPS collar technology meant physical fences weren't installed, except along the perimeter alongside a busy road. The Arty Cow Project involved local school and university students, as well as members from local youth and community groups, so around 100 people in total. The project purposefully coincided with the lift of school lockdown at the beginning of March. A cow cutout was sent to the groups, and following a presentation from the project's engagement officer, they were asked to paint their cow to tell part of the Dunescapes and cow story. All the participants responded positively and were excited to be a part of the project. So 6 weeks before the herd arrived, the trail of community-painted cow boards was established in the dunes. Our promotion of the trail was picked up by local publications, newsletters and news feeds. And the result was that the trail and story of the cows was well received by the public, and the reaction from the local community was of interest rather than concern. Our citizen scientists will later quantify the impact of grazing on the habitat. The other side of this story has produced a good conservation case study. After an absence of over 80 years, cattle have been reintroduced to Studland Bay and are now grazing the dune heath using GPS virtual fencing technology. The cattle went through a period of training with the collars off-site in 2020. They were then retrained to use the no-fence technology prior to release in Studland Bay in June. So the collars each have a GPS tracker in them that links up to the no-fence system. The grazier or site manager is able to draw a boundary on a map on their mobile phone that acts as a virtual fence. It's not actually a line, but actually a zone. If the animal enters the warning zone near to the boundary, the collar emits audio signals to indicate that they are approaching the boundary. The cattle were found to be really quick to train to the system. The app provides minute-by-minute intelligence on all the animals and can provide a heat map of where they have grazed. It's also possible to exclude certain areas. For example, the omitted area in this image is a hill that is popular with tourists. The trial of the new GPS collars to allow virtual fencing units has been very successful, and the learning has been shared widely as the new technology has wide-reaching potential for conservation grazing. The second case study I wanted to share with you is from Oxwich National Nature Reserve in Wales. Oxwich is an important coastal site with a diverse mix of habitats and SSSI designations. The dune system itself has become more fixed and succession through the dunes has halted. No new slacks are formed for several decades. Stabilisation and rigorous vegetation growth, including bracken spread and woodland regeneration, has seen the loss of dune grassland, humid slacks and the loss of any bare sand. With very little natural dynamic sand movement, coupled with rapid vegetation succession, the site has become over-stabilised, with little to no bare sand or early successional habitat. First, a geomorphological appraisal was conducted to identify whether interventions might be beneficial, and if so, to identify the best position of any intervention. It was decided to rejuvenate the dunes by restoring natural dynamic conditions, both in the frontal dunes with a frontal dune notch, and in the dune slacks by scraping away the top layer to expose bare sand. These management actions will have direct beneficial impacts on the condition of the dune habitats and the species requiring bare sand, as more bare sand will travel through the rest of the dune system behind. It is hoped that by kick-starting the geomorphological processes at Oxwich, that the dunes will become more dynamic and more self-sustaining, reducing the management time and costs into the future. So this is a before shot. And then this is after. A frontal dune notch and dune grassland scrapes were carried out successfully in January this year, and approximately 0.4 hectares of scrub was removed in the slack the year prior to these intervention works. Here are more before and after images of the notch in the frontal dune. It was approximately 20 metres wide at the top and 10 metres wide at the base, with a 35-metre long scrape from the beach to the slack. This slide shows before and after shots together. Since the works, there have been 2 southeasterly storms and sand is blowing into the scraped area and beyond the footprint of the scraped area into the dunes behind. This will have a positive effect on the dune vegetation, rejuvenating it with calcareous sand rain. If you'd like to learn more about these works, the full case study is on our website under the Site Manager section, or feel free to get in touch with me. As I've mentioned, we have a programme of citizen science to help capture data on the site interventions. Monitoring the effects of the conservation interventions being undertaken is important to demonstrate the impact of the capital works. To support time-poor site managers, a citizen science in-field survey and data entry app was launched. It was co-designed with site leads, and the app has a range of survey activities that will record data that will be used to inform future management actions on the dune systems. The data collected by the app will give an overall indication of dune health through surveying key indicator species and monitoring the extent of sand movement from fixed point photography and measuring sand dune profiles. The app is supported by a citizen science manual and a suite of training materials with how-to videos to teach both how to record and how to upload the data into the app. It's also intended that local schools, colleges and field study centres will be able to adopt transects and embed real-world science as a part of their everyday learning. The project has recently published a Sand Dune Manager's Handbook discussing issues facing dune systems in the UK and the different management interventions available. It has sections on notching, turf stripping, invasive control, and topics such as unexploded ordnance, forestry and archaeology, as well as detailed sections on hydrological management and grazing, written in a way for site managers to use to understand what techniques might be needed for their site. It was written by Lawrence Jones from the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology and Paul Rooney and Jennifer Rhymes from the Liverpool Hope University, along with the project's national coastal specialists from Natural England and Natural Resources Wales, and in consultation with the project site leads. The handbook is available to be downloaded from our project website. The content of the handbook has been taken and repurposed into an online learning resource. This resource is layered to enable easy and accessible content for a range of audiences. The first module is aimed at people new to dune management or with a general interest, including volunteers, schools, colleges and field study centres. And the second module was developed for established countryside managers looking for a deeper understanding of dynamic sand dune principles and practical considerations. The handbook and learning resource will be live documents throughout the course of the project, with case studies being added as they are available after project activity, in order to facilitate the sharing of the project's learning across all sand dune managers. The new project website is an in-depth resource. You can find out about project activity, sand dune stats and facts, and many opportunities to get involved, whether you're a family, want to volunteer, a site manager, student or dog walker. It holds particularly in-depth resources for the Citizen Science programme, including the Citizen Science Manual and training resources to use our bespoke mobile app. The latest news and stories from the project can also be found on our blog and social media channels. This is just a taster of Dynamic Dunescape activities. There are a whole host of events and activities going on across all of our sites. I also quickly wanted to mention a couple of our campaigns. We teamed together with the Sands of Life project in Wales and many of our partners for the first World Sand Dune Day on 25th of June. On the day, physical events were hosted at Dynamic Dunescape sites, including dune yoga and mindfulness classes and guided wildlife and nature walks. And the projects hosted several online talks celebrating topics such as orchids and birds and sand dunes. A variety of projects and community groups external to the project partnership also ran Worldscientin Day events and created digital content to celebrate and support the day. The ambition is for Worldscientin Day to become an annual awareness day, celebrated by coastal communities and projects, highlighting the importance of sand dune habitats for wildlife and for communities. It was fantastic to see the Endure project help celebrate the day, and we're really keen for the day next year to be even more international. Our latest campaign is aimed at shanty groups, singing groups, choirs or individuals. We're creating a collaborative celebration of coastal heritage and dune landscapes through a Dynamic Dunes sand dune shanty. I just wanted to show you a clip. Please do share it with anyone who you think might be keen to join in.
Who cares the weather to come? We'll join our friends and away we'll run off now to be a beach bum to enjoy dynamic dunes. Sand dune walks, friends and me, oh how happy we will be. And all of this we enjoy for free in dynamic dunes. Who cares the weather to come? We'll join our friends and away we'll run off now to be a beach bum all in dynamic dunes. Sometimes we do a little bit because we like to take care of it. Other times we just sit and think and contemplate the world. Who cares the weather to come? We'll join our friends and away.
So thank you. Please do check out our website or get in touch if you'd like any further information. Thanks.